Hello and welcome to a nice little chat about Captain America Civil War. We are kind of just the gang here. I'm your host, as always, Evan, and with me for a staggering 4 times in a row, Kevin.
I'm pretty adamant about keeping a spot. I like talking with most of you people.
Kevin, it's called a rotating cast, and you just don't like that rule at all. It's supposed to be the whole team to have a turn. You're like, no, fuck that.
Well, one, I play and watch, pretty much everything, so I have that on my side.
Right, so because you're a giant nerd, that means you should be on the podcast more. Okay.
And I don't care about making extra money most of the week, so I'm free most of the week.
Do your bosses ever come up and they're like, hey, Kev, do you want to stay a full shift? And you're like, nah, man, I got shit to do. And you just go home.
No, I say I have other stuff to do. Hopefully they're not listening to this at some point in the future. But I have other stuff that's obviously super important to do most of the time. God. I worked yesterday extra on my day off, so
20 minutes extra.
Well done, Kevin, for being an adult. Well done.
No, it was my day off. It was my day off, and I worked like 4 hours yesterday.
Anyway, that's Kevin. Jesus.
Hello.
And the other voice was Liam, of course.
Hello.
And that not voice you didn't hear is John.
Shamai.
Man, we got two Americans, 2 Europeans. We're gonna have a real on Revolutionary War in here.
Yeah.
In a Civil War fashion.
Let's get it on. At some point, my nationality and John's won't kind of be an issue, but it just won't. it won't be today.
It's fun. It's fun to talk about.
Yeah, no, I heard talk about crumpets and kind of various other things on
Welsh
the other
cakes.
podcast.
Yeah, Welsh cakes.
Welsh cakes. Yeah, I have not tried the Welsh cakes. I hear they're very good though. So
they're just chubby pancakes. That's it.
Yeah.
It's nothing special. Anyways, so depending on when you've heard this, which we still don't know when things are going to happen.
Doctor Strange just came out yesterday.
Just went and saw Infinity War Part 1.
Yep.
That probably, I'd say at least up until this point, and probably for the rest of the year, the biggest superhero nerd movie has come out, and it's the 3rd installment of the Captain America franchise. But it's kind of like an Avengers movie, though. Like, it's not having Captain America is the forefront is kind of true, but at the same time, there's a shitload of people, so
some would say it's slightly better than the actual Avengers movie we had last.
Oh yeah, sure. Because 2 was kind of lame, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
So I think we all agree it was pretty damn good.
Yeah, I think we all saw it, what, two days ago now? No, sorry, John, being that he's from the UK, he saw it super early. But yeah, I've had time to marinate on it, think about it, and I still think it's awesome.
Yeah, I would really love to go see it again if I had the time, but I don't.
I saw it again yesterday.
Nice. Oh, I'm so jealous. So let's just go around. We'll kind of just give, your first thoughts, what you really liked, what you didn't like, and then we'll hopefully kind of go into the nitty gritty afterwards. Kev, since you are just the most well-versed on the topic, you can go ahead and go first.
So yeah, I actually really enjoyed it. I haven't been like a huge, I don't know, not a huge like advocate for Batman versus Superman, but like I generally
it's gonna come up.
Yeah, I mean I generally enjoyed Batman versus Superman. I definitely enjoyed it like the second time I saw it because I was able to appreciate it a little bit more as well. I don't think we ever talked about it proper. Did we? I can't remember. Nah. It's been a while.
It isn't worth it. It's fine.
Well, I didn't remember if we did an old episode about Batman versus Superman.
No, we didn't.
Didn't you and I do it? I don't remember. I feel like it came up.
Oh, yeah. I think that might have been like one of the last ones.
One of the last boxes of idiots.
Yeah, but it didn't ever get published, so it's just
it's just out in the ether.
Shit.
Me and Evan talking for like an hour and a half or whatever.
I guess I did just like, I'm like, who cares? I have 2 files. I don't even give a shit anymore.
So I mean, I was never like a huge like, oh my god, you have to go see Batman vs Superman. Oh my god, like huge advocate for it. But I generally enjoyed it. But as far as like Civil War goes, I enjoyed it a heck of a lot more. They just did a better job balancing the whole cast because there's a lot of moving parts in Civil War, and I feel like it's definitely that's why it feels more like an Avengers movie because there are so many different characters and they're balancing a bunch of them, and they do it pretty darn well, which is great. Because I know the directors, I forget their names, Russo, Tony. Like something
Justin and something Russo.
Jason. Yeah, because they did a great job, obviously, in Winter Soldier, focusing obviously mostly on Captain America, but in Civil War they do a really great job balancing the cast, which was great. Because Avengers 2 was not great, and
it was just kind of bleh. Like,
yeah,
it was just kind of uninspiring. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't something to like really get into and be like, man, those themes. It was just like, it's just kind of the Avengers guys and they're like blowing stuff up and you're like, I'm getting kind of tired of this crap.
And like kind of like similar to Batman versus Superman, like for Avengers 2, they kind of blew their load in showing off like some of the coolest moments in the trailer compared to Civil War, where they showed off like some really cool stuff in the trailer, but there's some great stuff in there's so much stuff in the actual movie that wasn't spoiled. And there's like the entire, like, I thought they showed off too much like in the trailers of the airport scene, but there is so much more, and that scene is 3 or 4 times longer than I thought it would be as well, which is great because it doesn't feel that long either. But yeah, overall, like, I really loved it. I saw it a second time. I don't think I need to see it a third time, but like it's definitely worth seeing again because I could anticipate some of the stuff, like seeing obviously Spider-Man and like all the Black Panther stuff, and kind of like dissecting some of the stuff a little bit more. So definitely worth a second watch for sure.
Yeah, I often advocate for like second viewings of movies because like the first time you hopefully don't know what's gonna like happen in full, and you're kind of like having to view and then also process. But if you go back the second time, you kind of already know what to expect, so you can kind of be a little bit more relaxed.
Yeah,
and you're just like kind of less like along for the ride and more like, oh, that I didn't notice that the first time. That was cool or funny, or this is weird, and it's just, I don't know. Something about it is always easier to process things if you've already seen it once.
Yeah, and because the second time I went with my brother, we go to movies all the time, and like not that he's still like a nerd, but he's not as like huge of a nerd, I guess. So I always appreciate like watching him like watch the movies that I've seen, because he really enjoyed it too. Like just like growing up as kids, like we always watched. We really like obviously fully like we used to watch the animated Spider-Man show, which was. Obviously like that in the back.
90s one?
Yeah.
Oh,
which is like
so
we grew up on that. We didn't grow up on as much of the other Marvel stuff when we were younger. So like seeing Spider-Man together on screen was great, and we broke.
I love that 90s show, by the way. I think that's still the best. I think that's the best Spider-Man that I've seen. Well, obviously we'll see what happens now with the new one, but yeah, I love that.
It's an absolutely fantastic show.
It's so good. And the music and the voices.
Yeah, so yeah, we both grew up on that.
On Spider-Man,
I know, right?
So yeah, it was great, like experiencing that with him. Obviously, even though I saw the movie previously with my fiance, it was still great to experience with him. So great little film overall. Definitely, I would say like I would have to look at a list of all the Marvel movies, but definitely like in my top 4 or 5 overall, probably.
Yeah. On that point, Guardians of the Galaxy aside, because that holds a special place. Like, I love that movie, but I don't really see it as part of this overall big universe. Obviously, because it's probably set in a different universe. But this is probably my favorite. I was previously like a really big fan of Winter Soldier. That's like I think the strongest standalone movie. But in terms of the Avengers, like I respect the first Avengers movie. It was really fun, and that's like probably the best movie that we could have had at the time. But I had this weird thing where I don't want to watch it again. I'm like, this, the very start of that movie and the whole bit on the helicarrier just before a shit goes down is just kind of a bit dull and a bit weak. And, I enjoyed Age of Ultron, but, whatever. So, but with this, like, there was a personal stakes involved. Like, what I really appreciate about it was like a crap ton of characters in the film, but everyone got their moment to shine. It felt like everyone had an arc, and even if their screen time was quite short, then they had 2 or 3 moments where they shined, or they kind of did something really cool, or they said something really cool, and they didn't outstay their welcome. Like, even Ant-Man, if you hadn't seen Ant-Man before this film, there's no explanation as to why or who he is, and that's fine. He's just there, and he's whatever, but he has some awesome moments, and that goes for everyone. And that, it was kind of cool to see this film, as Kevin mentioned, a month out from Batman vs. Superman. It's weird, like, when Hollywood does this sometimes, like when there was 2 films about volcanoes out in the
volcanoes.
same year, or 2 films about asteroids hitting the Earth, like they just happen. And with this one, it was 2 superhero movies about the collateral damage of the third act explosions that they had in the previous film. But you can see, obviously, they're different films, but they're going towards the same themes. And whereas Civil War is actually really dark, but it's actually quite mature, Batman vs. Superman is kind of juvenile and dumb, but thinks it's really dark and gritty, which is interesting. I know, Evan, you haven't seen it yet, but oh boy, yeah. You're like, it'll be a night and day, literally, because the other film is so fucking dark. But
it's that DC grayscale.
It is like I had a huge debate with the wife when I got back from a Civil War. She was like kind of really into seeing a Batman versus a Superman with me because she really liked Man of Steel because she was like they treat it more realistically and his suit doesn't look so dumb. It's just like I don't think you like comic book movies, and that's fine. You just don't like the fact that they have color, or they can have some fun, or they can have any kind of a warmth or humor to them. You want them to be wearing like their dumb uniforms, basically. And she was like, "Yeah, that's fine by me." Yeah. Anyway, so I'm going off topic, but I really enjoyed this. Those are my overall thoughts. Anyway, it's a really good film, and yeah, I can't wait to see it again the second time.
Yeah, and the same thing with Kevin, where I'm like a hyper nerd when it comes to this crap, and I see everything, and I know all the blah, blah, blah. But I usually go see movies with my dad, and he likes, Marvel movies. Like, when I was a kid, or not like really a kid, but growing up, we watched, like, the Blade trilogy and other kind of comic book movies from that era, and we've always gone to see the Marvel movies because they come out usually like right around his birthday, because for whatever reason Marvel decided that like early May was their time. And so we walk out and he's like, what was going on there? And I'm like, well, actually when he gets the Infinity Gem, and then we go through all the whole BS. But like, it is weird to see this movie because you think Marvel movies are kind of like dumb, and Avengers 2 is like, look, we're trying to crack jokes, and not all of them are successful. And then this movie comes and it has like some great jokes, some actually really funny moments, but at the same time, it ends with a climax of like Captain America and Iron Man trying to kill each other in like Siberia. Like, it's just this weird mix, but it works so well in like the weirdest times when you're not expecting something to be funny, and then it's hilarious. And then the next scene, like, oh, we shot War Machine in the face and now he's paralyzed.
Yeah, for me, there's quite a lot going on in this movie, like just in the number of characters that are turning up. And comparing again to Batman v Superman, I feel like that's a movie that tried to a lot and achieved nothing, whereas this is a movie that tried to achieve a lot, and most of it worked as well, which is quite surprising that they were able to juggle all of these moving parts so successfully.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and it does have like a huge cast. Like I haven't seen Batman vs Superman, so I can't say for sure. But like, even the amount of characters in that movie, that some of them still got mishandled, or they're just not good. And then Captain America, I can't remember how many people total. There's like gotta be 12 or 13 heroes in this movie.
Oh, something like that. I think it's just under 10 or something like that, but it is a lot. And obviously, they it isn't like they all get equal weight, but
yeah, not all of them are there the entire movie. But
no, that's for sure. But like, it's really interesting to see this film because, like, if you've watched all of the other ones, and I've been watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. alongside as well, just recently, and it's like there's a history there. So like with Tony, for example, like his actions in this film and like kind of what he chooses to do makes perfect sense given what he's just gone through in the other films. Like, he's feeling really guilty as fuck for like creating a robot that almost destroyed the world, and I wasn't like on a breakup with Pepper and the kind of things like that. He's like a microcosm of like everyone, because you can understand why everyone is sort of doing what they're doing. And that's the thing, like, when you think of this premise, you kind of might think of them all fighting each other as being a bit indulgent, and like it's an event. It's like, when it was out on a comic book thing, it was an event to sell. Like all your heroes, they're all gonna have this big fight. By the way, I read the comic, and
it's way darker than this too.
It's way darker. It doesn't stand up though. Like, say in this one, like, what I was saying before about Tony Stark, Iron Man, and his actions make sense for his character. I think in the comics, like, it's just really, really dumb. I read it last night, and I just like, it isn't, because they are completely different, and they are setting a completely different universes, from a comic to the film. That's fine, but the comic is just sprawling, and it doesn't make a ton of sense.
The events are always that way. They have too many characters, and they're not long enough, and nobody gets enough time, and you're disjointed. Like reading the Spider-Verse, which is kind of the same thing. It's like a billion different Spider-Men coming together because the world is about to end. And you're like, that sounds awesome. Yeah, and then you read it, and you're like, that was okay. And you don't come out like, holy shit, I gotta see this on the screen now. You're like, I feel like that kind of sucked. Can we get back to like just the normal things? Because this is too much. But I feel like they did it in a smart way. Because the Civil War stuff in the comic books is kind of convoluted, and there's too much shit going on. Because there's like 200 something characters in that arc, and it's just too much. Whereas they kind of took the like theme of the overall of the comic arc and just kind of like filtered out most of the junk to kind of get this nice like concise, like, because I thought this movie was going to be too short to tell the story, but the way they altered the story to fit their universe I think works totally fine in a 2-hour movie.
I've actually got a real quick question about the actual plot of the film. You know, the Accords that they're all
Sokovia Accords,
they're all fighting to sign or to not to sign. Is that just to control the Avengers alone, or like all empowered people? Is it or just the Avengers? Because now in the comics it was a registration act.
Yeah, I think it is that. I think it is that way in the movie because in the comic books it's just a hero thing. Like if you're gonna be a hero,
you have to sign
outside, you have to be a part of this. Whereas in the movie they don't really feel like they need to acknowledge heroes. It's just the Avengers have fucked a lot of shit up and they're not being held responsible for it.
To some extent it's also I think a framework to be applied to other heroes because they do build that prison and things like that, and I think it's they start with the Avengers because obviously they're the most prominent, but it's sort of legislation that they can lay down and apply to anyone else who may pop up in the universe or be active in it.
Well, I mean, the raft isn't for heroes, it's for crazy ass, like insane supervillains, which is why it's out in the middle of the ocean. Because like, you can't go anywhere out there. You go somewhere unless you can fly or you're made of water or some shit.
Or unless you're Captain America and you can just break everyone out anyway.
He just goes, like, I don't know how he got there. Like, he's supposed to be on the lam, like, essentially. He just shows up in the middle of like the Atlantic Ocean. He's like, yeah, it's just me. I took out literally everybody. Let's go. Like he just
Yeah, that's fine by me. It's cool.
I don't care, but yeah, it was just kind of silly. Like, oh, like the super prison, but Captain America did it. It's fine. No one else can do it though.
Yeah, it doesn't have a shield or anything, so they start shooting at him. Like, what is he supposed to do?
Oh, that's true actually. Yeah, because he hasn't got his shield.
He didn't even have his outfit on.
He borrowed Black Panther's vibranium suit.
Oh,
because we've just touched on the ending, and I don't want to get into it too much because I want to try and go through the game, go through the film. Not the game. We've been talking about games on the other podcast. Through the film, like in order-ish, but like about the ending, in that Steve writes Tony a letter saying, I'm sorry for almost killing you and punching you in the face a whole bunch of times, but whatever. I had reasons, and you had reasons. We're cool, right? I kind of feel like this film would have been a little bit stronger because they obviously have to end it in a certain point because, we've got that other Avengers movie coming up in a few years' time. Like, you can't rock the boat too much. It kind of feels like by the end of Civil War, the film, things have wrapped up a little bit. And you got Steve doing his own thing with his own team, however that's going to work in the future. But it would have been nicer had maybe someone, like, actually, like, with a War Machine, like, you really felt that. I kind of like that he didn't die, actually, because just having him paralyzed as fuck was even more cruel. But I kind of hoped, or I thought that maybe something much worse was going to happen to either Steve or Tony at the end. I don't know, because it just seemed to wrap up a little bit too neatly. I don't know.
I mean, they killed off Quicksilver in Avengers Age of Ultron. They killed off Anthony in Ant-Man. I mean, they're two characters that people didn't really care too much about. I mean, I personally love Anthony, but...
Took me a second, I was like, what the fuck are you talking about, Anthony?
But it's like...
I still don't know who that is yet.
It's the ad that he writes that gets shot.
Oh, right. Oh, I still don't care. Yeah,
But like, they're the only two characters really that they've killed off. But the characters that people don't really care about, but I thought the reasoning for them doing that was like, hey, this is introducing death to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. You don't care about these guys, but we want you to know that death exists in this universe so that later down the line when we do kill someone significant, like Captain America, that you're ready for it. And especially having read the comic, I went into this expecting at least one person to die, and I think that it is a little bit cheap that they get away with not even any major consequences, because when he sends that note to Tony at the end, it's kind of like, oh, we're actually, like, friends in the end. Like, for me, there's no permanent consequences. Like, seeing the Avengers still in jail, those of them who end up in jail, seeing Captain America in jail, or... like, the moment that for me is so significant about the comic is that at the end, Cap is about to kill Iron Man, and it's ordinary people civilians who get in the way of him and say, no, don't kill this person. And Cap just realizes in that moment, I've strayed so far from my mission. And when he turns himself in as Steve Rogers, even though the death of Captain America is to come later in the comic books, that is the symbolic death of everything that Captain America stands for. And even though he drops the shield at the end of this movie, to me that doesn't have any impact. I know in Avengers that Tony is just going to give him the shield back and to be like, oh, I need you to be Captain America again. Here's your shield. There's no lasting consequence.
It isn't so much a death, because I know that's hard to do, especially in a franchise that's so, they have to keep on going, they're so expensive, you can't kill off maybe like a huge character like that, but to have an end point, like, I know Robert Downey Jr., he doesn't really want to do another Iron Man movie, he has done them forever, he was the first one 10 years ago now, and he's been in like a whole bunch of films since. I thought we would either see the end of his career as Iron Man, or a Cap would have been a cool one as well, because Steve's arc in this film kind of stayed the same. He was always in the right, and he was always conflicted, with Bucky. He, was innocent, and, he was brainwashed. You always saw Cap as being the one in the right, at least I did. So there wasn't too much a conflict there. Like, his stuff throughout the film was almost the most uninteresting, even though it was fine, whatever. But yeah, that was just my thought on the ending anyway.
Yeah, for me, like I do kind of feel the same way, that there's a lot going on, but at the same time, there's nothing really happening. I do think that they did build good tension though, because I knew Cap wasn't gonna bash that shield through Tony's skull, but at the same time, there was a part of me that was like, this shit's getting crazy. Like, for a moment, I forgot that these are Marvel movies where, more often than not, no one's going to get their head bashed in. But it did feel like it was going to happen for a second, and that was really good. But I do hope, for me, I don't really care for the main Avengers. I don't really care about Iron Man. I don't really care about Captain America. Black Widow and her actual comics where she's actually a hitman is really cool, but she's pretty lame in the universe where she just is this weird shield lackey. Hawkeye, nobody cares about him. Thor, whatever, like the core Avengers, I'm ready to say like goodbye for the most part. Like, if they did the arc where Steve gets the super serum like basically removed from his body and he becomes like kind of this old guy, and he's just like a mentor for when Sam Wilson takes up the Captain America stuff, or when Bucky becomes Captain America for a while, or when Captain America gives up the Captain America stuff and just becomes the Captain, when he kind of gets removed from the Avengers and does his own little side thing. Like, I'm just ready for them to kind of shake up, like, these are the Avengers, and there's, like, kind of these side people that filter in, but they don't really stick around.
Because the two new people that I still kind of see them as new, even though they're not they're from the last film, Scarlet Witch and the Vision. I really enjoyed them in this film as well, like, kind of their weird quasi-couple thing that they had going on.
Yeah, they have a kid in the comic books, right?
Yeah, no, I know that, and it kind of, when I was watching it, it was like, I wouldn't have seen that pairing, and then suddenly, no, that makes complete sense. They were so cute.
Yeah, I appreciated that, like, even though it's like, kind of like dumb, it was nice to have like some quote unquote human stuff going on, and I was like, this is still like 1,000 times better than the Black Widow and Hulk stuff from Avengers 2, which was so bad.
Well, because in this film, they showed the process of how these people could fall each other, or how they could connect, whereas with Age of Ultron, it all happened off-screen, if I remember right. It was just sort of like, we've been seeing each other for a while.
Cool.
So I'm ready for them to, kind of move on. Like, I pray that the Infinity War, whatever they rename it to now, will have some sort of actual, like, world-changing things. Like, because we've seen it with, Captain America 2 and now 3, that they have this kind of universe, like, they put it in a bag and shake it up, where, in 2, S.H.I.E.L.D. is now gone, blah, blah, in 3, now everybody's kind of pissed off and they're kind of all spread across wherever the hell they are in the world. So I'm hoping 3, they do, like, maybe Tony retires and he just becomes, like, a S.H.I.E.L.D., like, tech guy. Like, he just kind of builds stuff and he just is there. Or he's not Iron Man anymore. He's just Tony Stark, and he does what Tony Stark does, which is he's like an inventor, engineer, all that stuff. And they let in, like, the new Avengers, or the West Coast Avengers, or the all-new Avengers. Like, there's so many cool things they could do, because Spider-Man's now here. They're working on an Iron Fist. They are, I hope Nova comes out sometime, or White Tiger. And they have Spider-Man's
Black Panther as well, obviously.
Oh, God. And he was fantastic in the movie, by the way.
Yeah, we need to break this down in a minute about those two, because they were great. Anyway.
I just want to see something change where I'm not staring at Tony Stark and Captain America in like every movie. Even if they're not the sole part of the movie, like they will show up for whatever reason. And I just don't care. I don't really like Iron Man, his stories or whatever. Captain America's, for the most part, just kind of boring. Like, there's so many characters and they just keep putting more in this universe that they need to pull some in, like some new people, get rid of the old Avengers. Because I'm going to get tired of them soon.
It'd be really nice, and I know that Marvel have talked about how difficult this is, but to start bringing in some of the characters from the TV shows, because the Netflix series are really, really good. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. kind of has a bad rap, but the stuff they do with Inhumans towards the end of Season 2, and especially in Season 3, I mean, Chloe Bennett's
really good
performance as Quake is just phenomenal, and she's doing such a good job with that character. And again, like I said, the Netflix characters. Like, when are the Defenders? When are the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. going to re-emerge? Like, they've cancelled the Inhumans movie. Well, they've not cancelled it. They sort of indefinitely postponed it for the moment. Like, are they doing that so they can bring Inhumans from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. onto the big screen? I really hope so, because there's some really good stuff happening. And one of the things that Marvel hasn't done fantastically are all of the sort of like romances and things like that are going on, and like some of the character moments. There is some really good character moments in especially Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Like, I don't know how far you guys are, so I won't go into like the Season 3 spoilers, but there's like one relationship that they're developing now in Season 3, and it's like so earned because you've sort of followed these characters for so long, and it just, I don't know, it works so much better than anything they've tried on the big screen, and just like, these characters are good enough to be on the big screen. Like, even though they're TV actors, they've got the range to go on the big screen.
I've only just started to get into this show in like the past maybe 2 months, but I've watched it all up to the end of Season 2, and I am really surprised actually, because when Captain America 2 happened, obviously with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. they dealt with the fall of S.H.I.E.L.D. and kind of what that actually meant on the ground. And that was really, really cool. And what I kind of wanting to see, in that show going forward is the after effects of this movie. And like I said, the kind of stuff with the Inhumans, which is basically X-Men's, but they can't use that.
Hold on a sec. I have not watched the show.
Yeah.
Do they have Black Bolt in that show?
I don't think so. I don't know.
Come on, it's not.
No, but it's like they have dealt with it in a smart way of how to explain what they are, because they're kind of dumb and a bit funky if you think about it. Like, you get the powers through an alien mist or whatever.
that is the actual Inhuman. That's not X-Men. That's the genuine Inhuman storyline. Is the Terrigen Mist?
Yeah, Terrigen Mist. Thank you very much, John. Yes, that's good anyway. But yeah, no, what you mean, like, say with Kilgrave, I would have kind of liked, for the Accords and for Tony's side of things, like, for him to just quickly mention a Kilgrave or a hero a villain that we've seen in a TV show that would support his argument, like, oh, hey, there's that guy who could control people's minds, and it was really, really scary, even though it was on a much smaller scale, but that would put some weight to everyone signing the Accord and kind of things like that, just like tiny little mentions, because at the moment it's this shared universe, but it's not, because you've got the films and you've got the TV shows, then you've got whatever's going on Netflix, and they're not quite speaking to each other yet. But yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be super complicated, and
it's so complicated, I imagine. Yeah.
But I feel like it has to happen sometime. Like, they've done a really good job about keeping everything, cohesive, and it makes sense, and, here and there. Even with, Peggy Carter or whatever, where that show was way back in the day, it still makes sense, as they go through all this stuff. And and even now, I haven't watched the show, but when, she dies because of this movie, when she, passes away or whatever, and she has is that her daughter? Or her, niece or something. Her niece
is Sharon Carter from the comics, Agent 13.
Yeah, there's a whole lot going on there, and they have all this crazy shit. And with the TV show, and I don't know if the Inhuman stuff is, actually awesome, but they could totally work them into stuff, because, Black Bolt is so cool. But yeah, I just really hope to see, as we pull in Doctor Strange now, which has a lot of, ways to shake up the universe, because he has crazy powers, he has alternate dimensions, and there's so much cool stuff we could see with him bringing in he's obviously going to bring in the next Infinity Gem as well. I don't know where the sixth one's going to come from yet, but even with Black Panther, all his stuff.
Oh, right, okay, let's just stop, because we've been going on for ages now, and we've not talked about either Spider-Man or a Black Panther.
Everyone's talking about Spider-Man and Black Panther. Panther. We don't need to talk
they're
about
really good though.
Yeah,
like
they're so good.
They balance all their characters and successfully introduce 2 new characters in the course of this movie in ways that fit with the story, and they make sense, and they're really good, and they're pretty like straightforward towards their origin stories, and it all makes sense. And Spider-Man's awesome.
We didn't get an Uncle Ben flashback, even though for half a second I thought we were about to.
I thought he was going to say it. Like, he's like, Tony basically asks Peter, like, why he does it or whatever. And I swear to God, if he was going to say, with great power comes great responsibility, I was going to just flip out. But he doesn't say it. I'm so surprised.
Which was great. We didn't get a flashback.
The acting in that scene is so good, because you can see him, like, remembering that event. You can see Tom Holland remembering his uncle dying, or, like, pretending to remember his uncle dying.
Because he's an actor, yes.
Yeah.
Whoa, breaking down the walls. Who knew? I thought he was Spider-Man.
Thought he was Spider-Boy, right?
But it's great to sort of like be able to have that subtle reference to that event, and now we never need to talk about it. And if you know what's going on, then you know what that little bit of acting means, and if you don't, it doesn't matter because the story progresses without that being an important point. And it was such a clever way to include it without really including it.
Exactly, and then I would say the same with Panther, which I'm not at all familiar with. I don't know his comics, his powers. I knew nothing about him going in, and he only has a bit of screen time. He's like he's like kind of basically a Terminator for a little bit in chasing down Bucky. But in terms of like his setup and like his origin story, so to speak, with his dad, like it's the economy of it. He only had every scene wasn't wasted basically, and he was just like really powerful and elegant and regal, and I was like, man, this guy's fucking awesome. So yeah, just a lot of stuff going on in the suit, but the suit was delicious.
Oh yeah, his suit was so cool because his home country, or whatever, the vibranium is like mined from there, is where it comes from, and he makes that suit, and he has like unlimited money. Basically, I think he is the richest Marvel character there is. Just he's a king, and he has like some power stuff which they don't touch on at all, and I don't know if they will. They might, because it comes from like this weird deity, and he has like the power of every Black Panther in his bloodline and stuff. It's weird, but it seemed like he was superpowered though, because he is sprinting at like Mach 6 down a highway.
Yeah, exactly.
And he jumps from like 40 stories and lands like in complete silence. So he's got to be.
That's the kind
somehow.
Of stuff that they couldn't have really explained in this movie. They didn't have the time, and I think
exactly.
Just set the character up, go into it in his solo movie. My one complaint about Black Panther was if you look at Civil War as just a single film, I feel like he was kind of pointless in being there. Like, obviously, if you look at the Marvel Cinematic Universe as a whole, you understand why he's being introduced, because then they don't have to give him an origin story when he goes into his own movie. But I think just examining this as a single movie, for me, he didn't really contribute anything that was meaningful. Yes, all of his scenes were cool, but I didn't really care about how the character was contributing to the overall narrative.
I would slightly disagree in that his character was really cool, but a moment that I understood who he was and what kind of hero he was right at the end, where he's talking to Zemo. Where he's got a Zemo and he lets him go, and he's like, okay, right, I have made a mistake, but I'm gonna, obviously not kill you, blah blah blah. And that's in complete contrast to what Tony's doing, because him and Tony are quite similar. They're both very, very rich, and it was the stark difference between his choice and Tony's choice, which was just to fucking go for a Captain America, So it was a contrast of their choices at the end, which kind of stood out to me. But I know what you mean. Like, it is a somewhat extraneous a little bit, yeah.
I guess, yeah, he, like, out of the new characters, he just, like, his involvement in the overall plot, quote-unquote, is kind of limited. He's just kind of there as, like, a semi-antagonist for a moment when he's trying to just kill everyone, and he's super pissed. But they brought Spider-Man in, and he is supposed to play a pretty large role. He didn't really. Like, he just kind of was there for, like, a cool fight, and then he went away. Which was kind of
fine. That's fine by me, though. Oh. It's like, again, he doesn't need to be in it either. And I think him and Tony having a conversation about kind of what it means to be a hero and why you got into it was a much needed thing for Tony as well, because up until that point, you're like, I know you feel guilty about what happened in the last film and you go through a bad time and everything, but I still don't quite get it. I think you need that scene of him being like a really cool, almost like an uncle type guy, a mentor to a new Spider-Man to get you back on his side a little bit. But yeah, I know what you mean. Like, there wasn't a lot with Spider-Man for sure. But
yeah, I mean, he's
really
absolutely like a role model to Peter. Like, it's totally how it goes in a lot of the comic books and even some of the TV shows.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was like one of my favorite parts from like they did it a little bit in the animated show. They did it more in some of the other like Spider-Man offshoots, but like his relationship with Spider-Man is always something so cool. And obviously, like in Homecoming, hopefully it's not obviously like doesn't take away from Tom's role, but it'll be super nice to see that relationship on screen.
Nice. He's gonna show up in the black suit, man. I'm telling you, that's how it's gonna happen. That's how a movie starts. Yeah, it's cool because I wish that they did follow the comic books a little bit in this aspect where Spider-Man kind of represents like the everyman, because in that stage of his career, and even in that movie where he's just like, he's stopping purse snatchers and stuff. Like, he's not fighting the Green Goblin and, you know, things aren't blowing up. Like, he's stopping dudes who are stealing purses from like old grandmas, and he's wearing like a sweatshirt and goggles. Like,
which was awesome.
Yeah, he's hardly even a hero at that point, and like he sees everything that's going down, and he's like, "Oh my god, like this is way too much. I'm 15 years old. There's no way I can process this." And he was obviously really cool, and I think Tom Holland did a fantastic job, and I cannot wait to see what happens more. But yeah, I mean, obviously introducing him and giving him like maybe 15 minutes was really satisfying in a way. Still,
one thing I want to bring up just quickly from a critical point of view is how good the CGI in this movie is. I think.
Yes. Thank you, John. Yeah, flawless. I thought for the most part, like we have kind of got to a point now with these films again in stark contrast to Batman vs Superman. God, where it just looked really, really good.
Yeah, I wasn't like, there was never a moment where I was like, okay, like this is BS. It all looks terrible or something, you know. And I do talking about I don't know this tangentially related somehow where Spider-Man's thing. Often in the comic books is he almost has like a fourth wall thing going on, and in some things he like actually does, but he in this movie like calls out the weird things that everyone's thinking where Captain America throws a shield and it bounces off this thing and hits somebody. He's like, that thing does not obey the laws of physics at all.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, oh, that's hilarious because he's referencing, and I get it. And he's throwing jokes around and kicking people, and
he's like, oh, really cool, good. You have a metal arm?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And he's like talking shit to the Falcon, and then he gets, rocketed off or whatever, and they're stuck there on the ground with the webbing on him. And then Bucky's like, you couldn't have done that earlier, and then Sam's just like, I hate you.
With a Spider-Man, like, I'm glad, because, in some of these movies with big superheroes, their powers can change depending on the plot or kind of what they need to do in the story at that point. But with Spider-Man, we've only just been introduced to him. We don't really know him too well, like, inside this movie itself. But he actually owns a lot of the heroes, as you would think he does. Like, he does a pretty good job with Captain America. He takes out a Falcon and Bucky, like, super quick. And, like, he wasted no time, basically. Yeah, so he was definitely very good on his first, kind of big role.
Yeah, and he's like an intern basically in the movie where he's like, I gotta impress Mr. Stark. I want this job. Yeah, like that's something people don't think about a lot, is that Spider-Man, like, as far as power goes in the Marvel Universe, is like 1 or 2, or I think he's just behind Hulk in terms of like raw strength.
The strength thing was a big thing this time, right? Because kind of before he used to stop things with his webs, or there'd be a few moments of him being actually strong, but here he had like one of the reasons why he got hired, I think, was Tony saw like a video of him
stopping a car,
of throwing a car. Yeah, exactly. Which I don't see a lot in the other Spider-Man films. That kind of raw strength.
Spidey stopped a train in the second one.
I mean, though. He was on front. Yeah, that was such a great scene, but so stupid at the same time.
But that's one of the great things about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, is that you can throw Spider-Man in there. He can have super strength, and they're to the point where they know that the audience is just going to accept that, because at that point you got another 12 guys running around with all various different powers. Like, you can suspend your disbelief in those moments when that happens. You don't need an explanation for it. And one of the other things they did,
he has the appropriate, like, the proportionate strength of a spider. He's totally that strong.
Right, but that's not explained in the movie is what I'm saying. Like, they don't have to spend like 5 minutes explaining, oh, this is why I can stop a car, blah, blah, blah.
And then all of a sudden, he squirted the toothpaste too hard and broke the sink. Like, we don't need to see that stupid scene where he's like, I don't understand what's happening. He's sticking to walls accidentally. Yeah.
But Marvel have reached such a point with this universe where Civil War, like having, especially like Tony and Cap fight and having it being meaningful, like this is a film that they really earned. And I got that sense for like all of the cool character moments. Like everything in this movie just felt so well earned because you had such a history with these characters, with maybe the exception of the Agent 13 Captain America kiss. That was not earned. But everything else was really well sort of just, I don't know, just it felt good because you had the history with the characters and you were like, I don't know, it really worked well having Civil War at this point in the cinematic universe, and I'm so glad they didn't try and do an event like this earlier on when you didn't have that history.
And the stakes are earned. Like, they answered their own criticism with their third act often being a big fight where everything explodes like in a big area.
Ending, yeah.
The stakes of this film was actually, well, it was big, but it was also very personal and focused, and it was just kind of between these three guys basically at the end, which was cool as well. And they really, I'm not sure they'll quite take the same tack with the Avengers movie because just the scale of it doesn't really.
Oh god, Infinity War is crazy. Yeah,
it's it will have to be like off the charts. But that aside, I hope they take some lessons about what really worked about this film, which is that you don't always have to have the entire world in jeopardy. You just need to have a few people who have a real good reasons for going up against each other.
Yeah, and thankfully it's the Russo brothers doing the first Infinity War, which I was so like, good. I had to look that up. I was like, oh, are they doing Infinity War? I really hope so, and they're at least doing the first part, thankfully, which is fantastic.
For me, I was nervous about them doing it just because I'm a huge Joss Whedon fan, and I was kind of the mind, if it's not Joss Whedon, I'm not interested. And especially because the only thing they'd really done of note that I've watched had been Winter Soldier. But seeing how well they were able to balance all of these characters, I have so much confidence for them going into Infinity War. And one of the problems with Age of Ultron is that Joss Whedon, and I'm not saying it's just him because obviously it's a big production, but they failed to balance the characters well in Age of Ultron, and they did such a much better job of it in Civil War. The fears I had about Infinity War being sort of too many people crammed in and it just wouldn't work on the big screen. Now that I've seen this movie and I know the Russo brothers are going to be doing Infinity War, I have no sort of confidence issues anymore in that movie.
Hopefully at least, because there's 80-something characters they said are going to be in it, so
that's
hopefully.
The thing, like in Age of Ultron, they had just the core Avengers. In a Civil War, they had loads more going on as well, like almost twice the size, like a little bit, and it was just like, and they were still dealt with well. It still sounds like a bit of a mess, to be honest, the next Avengers movie. Like, I don't know how that could possibly work, but I have been surprised before, and again, we were surprised with this film.
Yeah, and it is good that they are outright already saying, like, it's at least 2 movies. I almost wish it was more. Like, two seems like, okay, that's good.
A trilogy.
Probably 4 hours, but like Infinity War is a big deal, and if they want to have that many characters, and I'm really excited to see more of Josh Brolin's Thanos because he's fucking awesome. He just, even like in his maybe like a total of like a minute and a half of screen time is already seems so cool. I can't wait to see what happens there.
With the Avengers, is it going to be out 1 year, the first part, and then the
next year?
Second part's the next year. Okay.
Yep. May something 18 and then 19.
Oh, okay, that's cool. I didn't know whether they were going to do like the Kill Bill route where I think it was like half a year's gap or something. yeah, exactly. Which would kind of make a little bit more sense, but I suppose you can blow your load.
Well, I figure, I'm thinking that they're probably going to have a movie, something in between where they introduce another character that shows up. That's my guess, but
it's exhausting.
I mean, as long as they continue to do it right and well, I'm totally fine. Like, I hear a lot of people talk about, I'm getting the superhero fatigue and blah blah. And yeah, I feel that way with DC because they make shit movies, but Marvel continues to make really good movies, and they've almost gotten better since they started. It's just, oh man, the upward trend, I hope it continues, and I feel like, of course there will be a falling off point, but until we get there, man, this is fucking 13 movies deep, and we're still going strong.
We had a little bit of that towards the end of Phase 2, where some of the ending movies of Phase 2 didn't quite work. Avengers Age of Ultron wasn't the best movie, but then you did have things like standalone pieces like Ant-Man and things.
Yeah.
But watching Civil War, like, it just has me re-energized and re-excited. Like, this is kicking off Phase 3, and this is how Phase 3 starts. I can't wait to see how it ends if they can keep this momentum going.
And I hope they improve on their villains as well. That's the only big thing I can really point to where they've always been a bit weak. Even, there's been a Loki who was cool. He's the only one that really stands out. Whatever. And that's fine. But we know these characters now. Let's have some really, Kilgrave, one of the reasons why I love that show, and kind of why that show was so good. Jessica Jones was because it had such a strong villain, and we've not really had that for many of the films yet. And obviously, there's a chance with Thanos, who looks awesome.
Yeah. I was gonna say Doctor Strange has Mads Mikkelsen, so hopefully
that's true. Yeah.
Hopefully, it's not a one and done, which is my fear. But I don't know. Hopefully, he's good in it, and he's not just a one and done kind of guy. I don't know though. It's hard to say.
Talking about villains too, I thought, even though Zemo was basically nothing like he is in the comic books, he's like a totally new iteration, essentially. I thought I liked him a lot, yeah.
He was really good for this film. He was like the perfect fit. Obviously, you don't want someone who... Because the point of this film isn't to have like a big bad, it's about this...
It's the internal conflict, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But as a catalyst, as like a thing to make the thing happen, like he was really strong, and he's actually among my favourite villains because he was like... There's a really good reason why he's doing it, and we've seen it firsthand, and we've said, as an audience member, man, a lot of people got killed on that day. A lot of, they all died. It doesn't matter how many people or how many lines of dialogue they say where they try to escort everyone to safety. Like hundreds and 1,000 people died in all of these kind of big attacks that happened. So I'm glad that there was a villain that addressed that for sure.
And they've also, with the way they finished it, left it open, like Black Panther says, I'm not finished with you yet. And I'm not saying they will, but they kind of leave it open for him to return at a later point. And that's something I really want to see in these movies. We have this huge connected cinematic universe, and with the exception of Loki and Thanos, every villain we meet is just one movie and done. And whereas we have a history with these characters, and that allows them to create really meaningful moments in these films, they need to start doing that with the villains, where the villains do return and you build a rapport with the villains over several films. And hopefully that is something they can do with Zemo, because he is a villain there are a lot of people that really respond into well, so hopefully they can somehow in a meaningful way include him in the future.
Evan, you were saying before that it pays to go see it a second time. For like most of this movie, I didn't obviously get the point of his character, because I assumed he was the sidekick for the actual bad guy, the one who was behind it all, and because he operates on the shadows quite a bit, so it took me quite a while to twig, oh no, he's entirely the point, and that's brilliant. So when I see it again, I like to see it more from his point of view.
Yeah, he's just like, he's a really upset dude who lost like his family in Sokovia, blah blah. He's just pissed off, and he's like really smart, and he's good at what he does, and he doesn't want to like kill anybody. He's not, trying to blow up Washington D.C. or cause some giant terrorist attack or anything. Like, he just wants to see the Avengers burn,
and he won. Like, that is the thing. He won it. Well, obviously they're not all dead, they're not all enemies forever sort of thing, but in this film, like, he had a plot, and he succeeded.
Yeah, he broke up the Avengers, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's cool. That is more than any of the other villains have.
Yeah, and there's the turning point in the movie where you, like, kind of realize his motivations when he is, like, kind of doing stuff, and you're like, okay, is he gonna, launch nukes or some shit? Like, is he gonna, press the big red button and something's gonna blow up? Is he gonna shoot Iron Man in the face? Like, what's gonna happen? And he rolls into the old Siberia Winter Soldier holding facility, and he's like, all right, I got 5 super assassins. And I'm like, oh shit, is he gonna let loose the super assassins, brainwash them all, and then, take over the government and run it as a cool Baron? Because his name's Baron Zemo in the comic books for the most part.
and he's purple.
Yeah, well, no, he wears a purple like mask. He's not purple.
Well, I know.
Well, you know what? Thanos is purple. That he could have been purple too. And they, Cap and Bucky, blah, blah, they show up. Iron Man shows up, and they're like, okay, he's got super soldiers. We got to get ready to fight. And they walk in, and they're all dead. And you're like, okay. And he goes in, and he's like, you think I want more of you on this? He's just like...
Which is so smart. I was like, yes, that makes so much sense. Right.
And all he does in that, you're like, okay, this is the conflict. This is like the climax of the movie. And in a way it is. But it's not...
it isn't the thing that you expect.
The big monster centipede doesn't come out of the ground, and they fight it, and he takes over the world.
Or Doomsday.
Yeah, he shows a cool mixtape video, and he backs away into the shadows and vanishes, and then he just hangs out outside. Like, he's like, I'll wait. And then they go just kick the shit out of each other at the bottom of this thing. It just, in the way that the movie is set up, where he's a villain, in like the smartest way, where he's not, he doesn't have these grand plans to take over the world. He just wants to see them just go at each other, and he totally succeeds. And that last fight scene was really good. And I'll totally admit that while the repulsor beams on the cap shield. I didn't know if it was going to happen, and it totally happened, and I was like, yeah, that was cool.
That shot was so perfect. I was like, ah!
The cut there was really bad, though, where you have the iconic scene of Iron Man shooting Cap Shield, and then it just cuts to this guy in the snow, and it's like, what the most dramatic moment? And you cut away to some guy sitting in the snow moping.
But yeah, overall, I really like it. I would totally recommend it to anybody. I would love, I'll be getting that Blu-ray for sure. I can't wait to watch it again. Especially I'm hoping with some extra features, with maybe interviews with Russo or even commentary. I'd love to see what they have to say about how they made it and everything.
Yep, agreed.
Cool.
Can't wait to see it again.
All right, let's wrap it up. This was some cool, just about an hour or so. After, hey guys, we want to keep this around 30-45, right? Yeah, sounds good. 4 hours later.
And it was about one thing as well. The other shows that we do, they're about multiple games or things, and this is just one thing.
But our fireside chats have always been my favorite about specific things. Always great.
And there's so much we didn't even cover. We could have talked about that film.
Scratched it, really, but yeah, just good. Just go watch it again. And then buy it again, and then wait for the next movie.
Yes, please go see this movie so people fucking shut up about Batman vs. Superman being better than this movie, because it's not true.
It's not true. I like Batman vs. Superman, and it's not true.
I really hope the DC... I don't want them to emulate what Marvel are doing, but I hope they look at why their movie didn't work and why this movie did, because there's some really good stuff in DC, and if you watch the Arrow Flash TV shows, those are both really good. Arrow Season 4, not so much. But other than that, they're really good. And, it shows that these DC... It's not the heroes that are the problem, it's the stories that they're telling, and I hope that DC realize that.
It isn't about it being dark and grey. I know that is a thing that I am, blather. But it's not even that. It's just I want them to be acted better and written better and not for idiots. Fucking idiots who are just no, toys, no! And they got the toys and they got a Batman and Superman, they just bash it together, and bash it together. Yeah.
That's the problem with Warner Bros. Is they did things for toys for too long, and now they're like, how do we make good movies? I don't know. We have cool character designs. That's not enough anymore.
If you want to see the best incarnation of Batman and Superman currently around, go watch How It Should Have Ended Super Cafe. That's how you do Batman and Superman.
Or just watch any of the animated stuff, because that's great.
Watch Flashpoint Paradox, because it's the best DC movie that they've ever made.
And they're gonna probably use that in Justice League, probably, and make it not as good.
I thought they were gonna do Crisis on Infinite Earths.
I don't know. They're probably going to adapt 12 different things that are not going to be great.
There is hope, though, that, what's Batman's name? The actor's name?
Affleck.
Ben Affleck, yeah. I mean, he's writing the Batman movie, and he's acting in the Batman movie, so he does
Hopefully
he does
he'll
good
be
stuff.
Batman and not a psychopath, because that's not Batman. I'm sorry, I didn't I am not getting into it too much, okay? But it's just they're really, really stupidly dark for no reason. They could be their own thing.
So I heard that was the best part of the movie was Batman.
It was, but that's not a very good metric. Do you know what I mean? That's just because
you ask somebody and you're like, "Oh man, was Batman good? Oh yeah, Batman was awesome. How was the movie? Oh, it was shit."
This was a great piece of corn in this big pile of shit.
He was good because he was the only one who had an arc, who had
a legitimately good story.
Even though they were pretty lame, he was the only one who could act as well. That was kind of really good. But he was a terrible Batman in kind of my idea of Batman.
Oh, I agree. Anything that looks like this is stupid to me, because I like Brave and the Bold, and that Batman's cooler.
It's true. Anyway, we can save that talk for another show.
The Suicide Squad chat when we have that.
Yeah.
Wait, is that soon? When does that come out? August?
That's this year.
August, yeah.
That's still quite a ways away. Never mind.
Yeah, no, next will be X-Men, so.
Oh man, I can't wait to be pissed at that movie, because I have to fucking stare at Jennifer Lawrence for a goddamn hour and a half, and I fucking hate Jennifer Lawrence. You know what?
I think we should do a show on that. It's such a weird franchise. That whole franchise is
so insane.
Weird.
But they've still kind of turned it around and started making good movies again.
Yeah, that's the thing. They have been getting slowly better and much better. Yeah, for sure. It's just when you look at it as a whole, it's just whoa, that has gone through. From the very start of the comic book movies to right now, and it's just they've just seen it all. Very, 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 very
they're retconning their own movies, but they still exist because they're we can rewrite time and have it be part of the movie. but totally unrelated at the same time.
Yeah, we're gonna have our cake and eat it.
That's gonna be.
I can't wait to see their attempt at Wolverine 3. That's gonna be just something else.
I'm really hoping, because they show Wolverine at the end of that trailer, and I hope that he's Weapon X right then, and he's not Wolverine. I hope he has like the cyborg head thing on, and he's just killing people because he's brainwashed and shit. That would be so fucking cool to see.
Not likely though.
Not gonna happen.
Dude, come on. Let me live the dream. Because otherwise, I'm gonna hate that movie because I hate
We've gotta stop talking about superheroes.
I hate her. I hate her so much.
See, Liam, this is what happened when you left me and Evan alone on Idiot Box. We would just talk for like an hour and a half.
We talk about Marvel and DC for 3 hours. And it wasn't even about anything. It was just like, we'd be like, man, I really liked this week's episode of, DC and Marvel, they're doing the movie thing. And it would just vroom way off to the side, and then it would never come back. It's like throwing a boomerang that just gets caught in a tree or some shit.
It's great.
Shameless
it's like Captain
plug,
America's shield.
No, his always comes back in a smart, cool way. And it hits a guy on the way over.
Sorry, John, what were you going to say? Please stop that dribble.
Shameless plug, but if you do want more on Civil War, there will be a review on grandpunch.com.
Oh yeah, because that's the site we are actually going for now.
Thanks for listening to... You probably tuned out by now, let's be honest. Probably just like, nah, I'm good. I got shit to do. I got a crock pot going or some shit. Anyways, thanks for listening. Well, it would be cool to almost pen this as like kind of the summer blockbuster, like weird series of podcasts as we go through all these movies. Anyways, we'll talk about that later. Goodbye. Have fun. So long. Go see the movie.